Live. We are
Yeah,
live
go.
right now.
Throwing you in the deep end.
How are you?
I'm doing good. November 12th. We're recording this on Veterans Day, though. So
And
shout out
happy
to
birthday
all of
to your dad.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So
Realize if dad hadn't had a birthday, you wouldn't be here. So
I know. And he claims he invented my name, but I don't think that's right. My name is unusual, even in our culture. And so he's like, yeah, I just made it up. I'm like, but how come I know like 10 other Farnooshes that are older than me?
Because they made it up too.
They made it up too.
Listen, there's almost 8 billion people on this world. The fact that 5 people that you know came up with the name Farnoosh at the same time.
It's probable.
Your dad could have done it. He totally could have. Yeah. Hey, Lisa. Good morning. Maybe it's morning where you are. I've still got coffee. By the way, my coffee mug today is from when Cheryl and I went to Maine. We stayed at the chocolate chip B&B, which was this beautiful. It was down the street from in any other state you call it the beach, but really it was this rocky outcropping of land with the sea at the end of it. And so we'd run, and it was in the fall because we went and ran the marathon there. Runner's World, by the way, calls the Bar Harbor / it's actually called the I'm not going to get the name of the marathon, but it runs through Acadia National Park and starts in Bar Harbor and goes through all these little beautiful towns. Runner's World calls it the most beautiful marathon in the United States. And I haven't run every marathon in the United States, so I don't know, but I will.
Have you ever run a marathon? Have you ever run a marathon?
I've run 11. Yeah.
What?
11.
Why didn't I know that about you?
I don't know. I'm very disappointed that you don't know that.
Oh my gosh.
You haven't run a marathon?
Impressed.
Being there in New York, you've got a great marathon.
Well, first of all, you have to qualify for that, or you have to get sponsored. And I've done that, but I have done a half marathon. And then I was done. I was like, okay, I've done all the running that I want in my life. I'm check. Okay.
I got that done. Never have to do that again.
Also, I got plantar fasciitis after the run, after the race. And I was like, I'm good. Like I need a not very, physical workout. So I started doing bar, which is like a great alternative. Not that it's the same, it's totally different, but it's just very low impact. It's much more low impact.
Our mutual friend Kat Elford does that.
Oh yeah, I love Kat. Yeah. Maybe we should talk about that with her because she's a good friend. Yeah,
Kat does that.
It's a wonderful workout.
There is a half marathon that when I used to live in Texarkana, I helped with. And now that I'm back, I'm going to be helping with again, called the Run the Line Half Marathon, because you run down the state line between Texas and Arkansas. And our t-shirts, you'll appreciate this because you said you stopped at a half marathon. Our t-shirt logo was only half crazy. So there you go. Good morning,
there
Sarah.
You go.
How are you this morning, Sarah? Hanging out with us. All right, guys. Farnoosh and I have a couple of great topics today that we're going to jump into as if you're new here, we make 2 episodes of the Money with Friends show. They're both about 15 to 20 minutes long. So hang out with us. If you comment like Lisa and Sarah have, you could be on the show. And these will be on tomorrow and the next day on the audio podcast, wherever finer podcasts are distributed. Let me get that fixed and put my script up here.
You don't just wing it. You have a script. It's not all just in here.
I love how you say that because I'm going to pull the curtain back. Farnoosh knows how much I'm winging it today because we had our big event last night and I was furiously typing the script ahead of time. So thank you. That was very nice of you to say.
Okay.
Yes. Good work.
That's what I'm here for.
Oh, I forgot one thing.
By the way, what kind of work are you getting done in your house? We should address the noise that we're going to be hearing. So.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. So there's going to be some saws that you'll hear sawing, some
you'll hear sighing on my end, not sawing, but a lot of sighing because it's been a rough year.
Because you just got done doing your homework. Doing your school
with my 6-year-old. Yeah, we had. You're not even kidding. Like last night, we had 11 on. Why are teachers are giving homework like it's like we're really in school right now? Like Relax, teachers. PSA, teachers, stop the homework. They're already on Zoom school for, I know that's a revolutionary statement, but I think right now, like, please save us all. Cut us some slack. But we had a lot of homework last night. But anyhow, your work in your new home. Very exciting.
Yes. So you're going to hear people. So a big part of our house is one big, huge great room. And it had these I'm not getting words. Words are coming hard this morning, but these beams that went across the ceiling, and the people that lived here, they painted them white and they didn't look that good, but our house kind of looks like a lodge. And so we took those down. It's funny because I thought, how do you take down these beams? They're holding up the house, and they're really like these decorative covers, and you can see the real beam underneath it.
Oh yeah. I've seen that.
But they're replacing it with these cool natural wood looking beams, so it really gets that lodge look in our great room.
Love it.
There was a spot with a huge fish tank before, and now we're putting a bar in there because, after recording 2 episodes with Farnoosh, I need a drink. So
I like that. Your beam room reminds me, I'm also redecorating our house over the next several months, and here's the dream. See that beam?
Yes.
So I think you can get that installed. We have a very similar cathedral looking family room, but it doesn't have that structure. And I think that would add a lot of character to the room and just
you posted that to Instagram and it looked beautiful.
I did. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm like, crazy. I hired a decorator. I'm like, can you just do this? Here, just take this picture, go.
Just make my house this. You will see, this is that room. Now the floor is all covered up. There's actually a really nice hardwood floor down here. And then there used to be a big, huge fish tank, the prior owners, and we're putting a bar in there with lighting up here. And of course this all be, and that wine fridge is going to go right there. So,
wine fridge.
Got to have the wine fridge.
Yeah.
So
much better than having goldfish. Yeah.
I can't, if I had, my father-in-law actually said this. He goes, you know what the best thing to have is when you have goldfish? A scoop.
Yeah. You want to teach your kids about life and death? Get them a goldfish. That'll be a conversation starter.
Immediately. Why did Bambi die, Mom? Why did Bambi die? All right. Let's, you ready to make a couple episodes here?
Let's do it.
All right. I have my script here somewhere. I have 40. Where the hell did it go? I seriously have no idea where this went.
Uh-oh.
I love how you guys that hang out with us get to see the behind the scenes disaster.
Lisa and Sarah. Are there more people in the chat? Or
looks like we've got 13 people hanging out with us.
Oh, okay.
Now. So
lucky 13.
Yes. If you guys hung out with me last night for the stack event, you know why I'm fumbling today. Because
you got drunk.
No, I did not, but I got so, but intensely listening for 2 hours. You know how hard it is when you do the
migraine.
Yeah. Most people don't know how hard it is to interview somebody. And
really
we did
hard.
3 back-to-backs. You're listening so intently that it's so difficult. So
it's a lot.
All right.
It dehydrates you too.
It totally does.
Unless you're.
Here we go. Hit record. This is the Money with Friends episode for Thursday, November 12th. So what will you learn on today's show? Financial grief and COVID guilt. These sound like woo-woo topics to a lot of people, but they are very real. We're going to talk about financial planning, psychology, guilt, and more with financial expert and host of the So Money podcast, Farnoosh Torabi, on today's November 12th version of Money with Friends. Welcome to the Money with Friends podcast, coming to you from my mom's half-finished basement in Texarkana, Texas, where you're going to hear workmen outside. I'm Joe Saul. Say hi.
And I'm Farnoosh Torabi, coming at you from Jersey.
This is the podcast where Farnoosh and I are going to cover recent stories ripped in the financial press. Today, we've got one for you that comes from the Wall Street Journal. Not only are we going to summarize it like some podcasts, but we'll dive into how it affects your wallet and what you can do to invest, save, pay down debt more effectively, and all in 20 minutes or less. Today's show is brought to you by Tiller Money. Keep your financial life on course, easily track your money over time, always know what's safe to spend, and confidently plan for the future with spreadsheets automated by Tiller Money. Get a free 30-day trial at tillerhq.com/MWF. That's tillerhq.com/MWF. Well, two things. Number one is you might have heard the saws that started the second I hit record going on. Mom's having some work done out in the great room. So you're going to hear that on today's show. But much better than that, you're also going to hear Farnoosh Torabi on today's show. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Well,
I know you had a big night and you just got over. Are you cured? Not cured, but are you finished experiencing COVID, or have the demons left your body?
I've been trying to tell everybody that it's fake news that I was broadcasting with you, and then I found out I had COVID. Completely fake news.
It's not only airborne, it is transmitted through the internet, apparently. I don't have COVID. I don't think I've ever had COVID. I was actually tested around the time, not long after we recorded, as being not having it. So, but every time I start getting a little under the weather, I immediately think I have COVID. And then I start thinking about all the people that I might have infected. It's great. It's wonderful.
Well, and I feel bad because we have been around nobody. And of course we were just closing on our house, and I had stayed with friends here the night before, one night in Texarkana. I thought, well, there's one night, it's just two people. And of course I didn't know that I had COVID. Luckily they didn't get it though. They didn't get it.
Oh, great.
Cheryl hasn't gotten it. She's been tested.
Wow.
Just me. I'm the lucky dude that got it.
Wow.
Hey, I'd love to talk about COVID, but we got to talk actually about something that is very serious and people feeling financial guilt, which I get, but I did not expect this when you sent this my way. So let's see which one of our friends is going to help us kick off this discussion. All right, today's piece comes to us from the Wall Street Journal. It's written by our friend Veronica Dagger and Amber Burton. I haven't talked to Veronica in a while. Have you?
Not in a while. And I understand that her Secrets of Wealthy Women podcast just wrapped. It just
That's horrible.
Ended. And people are emailing me like, do you have any other ideas for us, Farnoosh? Because we loved that show. So I have to come up with some other. It was pretty singular in its quality.
Yeah, a top financial podcast too. I don't understand that, but Veronica and Amber Burton wrote this piece, and it's called "Prospering in the Pandemic: Some Feel Financial Guilt and Gratitude." I'm just going to read a little bit of it, and then we'll summarize and jump into it. Feelings of financial guilt have plagued many prospering in the uneven economic recovery. In some cases, those emotions, along with gratitude, are changing spending behavior. Some of my clients have expressed feeling of survivor's guilt, wondering why they're doing so well when others aren't, said Sue Peck, a financial planner in Madison, Wisconsin. As last Friday's job report shows, the labor market's healing, but the recovery still has a ways to go. The unemployment rate and the 11 million people out of work are still double pre-pandemic levels. The lingering economic pain, uncertainties, changing how some people think about their personal finances, some advisors say. Before the pandemic, some may have felt guilty about pricey purchases. Now the feeling spurring some to spend at local businesses or on tips for gig workers. Have you found yourself tipping people more during the pandemic?
Yes. Tipping people more, being more charitable, and being at the very least a lot more thoughtful about what we're putting, where we are putting our money, if we are spending, how we're spending it. I wrote an article actually about just, how spending has shifted from really, because I think that over the last 7-8 months, people in the beginning, you didn't spend anything, in the pandemic, you just spent money on the essentials. People weren't going out. There was no need for new clothing. People weren't traveling. And I think that over time, it affects you. You start to really either miss a lot of the usual things you were doing with your money, or you realize I don't miss, my gym membership or, that very pricey car I was driving that it's just sitting in the garage now. And so I was covering that sort of that side of the equation, but I thought this article really added a new layer to all the emotions that are happening around money in this pandemic. And then of course, as a result of COVID, because this isn't just a typical recession, right? This is a recession driven by people getting sick, really sick. And everyone knows someone, right? Who, I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you know someone, you may have had it yourself, right? And you know the devastation that can come with that. You're lucky if it doesn't upend your life, but for many people getting sick, it is financial stress. And so if you've been fortunate to keep your job all these months and continue to earn and maybe, invest too, the stock market's been very kind to people except for March, but over like the last 7 months, it's been a pretty good run. You could feel a little bad about it, especially if a relative has lost his or her job. It's like, how do you I've had these sidebar conversations with people, like, how do you actually talk to your family if you got a raise or you got promoted? And it might feel inappropriate to share this. And I think it's great what the article points out is that there is a higher sense of gratitude. We know that when you are more grateful for what you have, it actually does lead to more abundance in your life. I know that's woo-woo, and you and I are not really on that side of the fence. We don't really like to talk about lighting candles and rubbing jewels to become richer, but I do think there is something to be said about—
Don't speak for me.
I do think there's something to be said about recognizing what you have and being grateful for it, as opposed to focusing on the lack that is in your life. We all have the good and the bad in our lives. And I think there's something to be said about when you focus on what you focus on is what it expands, right?
Yes.
So I really liked this article. I will say that on the flip side of this, I am also noticing, because I hear a lot of people from my podcast audience writing in and saying, I don't feel like it's appropriate to ask for a raise. I feel like it's not appropriate to, tout the fact that I got a promotion. And I just want people to not fall victim to this in a way, where they feel less than or less worthy, or they don't go for the opportunities that they deserve simply because there is a cloud over everyone's, existence right now. That
I can see how easy it is, though, Farnoosh. I mean, especially with all the fighting going on in social media, and I'm imagining, especially for people, because we're all to some degree more isolated today than we were this time last year. If you spend your time on social media and all you're seeing is the hurt and the headlines and it's negativity, I think it's very easy to get trapped in this. What are we calling it lately? The doom scroll, right? Just completely and I think that fuels this sense of guilt that we have. And so maybe step number one is turn that crap off. Like, just turn it off.
You're hearing a lot more about social detoxing, and there's that documentary I haven't seen yet. The social
yes,
not network, but but I want, I kind of want to see that, but I kind of don't, because I feel like I'm probably, it's going to make an example out of me. But for sure, I've started to, at the very least, just maybe not unfollow, but just mute certain things that I just think are too negative, or even I started to, pre-pandemic, I was muting things that I thought were just too showing off, like, okay, how everything is perfect in your life. It's so well edited. It's like, this is not real. And it got to be a little too much. So use your power to mute.
Well, it's funny because when we talk about spending, Bobby and Elizabeth Segrin from Fast Company earlier this week, we're talking about people doing guilty spending. And this piece also talks a little bit about, I feel so much guilt that I'm online just buying stuff or not buying stuff. In fact, Tracy's here hanging out with us as we make the podcast live. Tracy says, my family and I are talking about people still spending like crazy, not hearing much about how those are really hurting. It's sort of odd. I also don't watch news. Maybe there's a correlation. Maybe there is a correlation. But I find, Farnoosh, people are spending in a little bit different ways.
Definitely.
I'm not a retail therapy kind of guy, and I've had in the last 2 weeks little retail therapy. Like I've gone out late at night and bought a couple board games that I totally didn't need, may not get played anytime soon, just made me feel a little better.
Yeah, there's somebody who said that dopamine hit is real when we shop, and people's emotions are running high. I think there's also been a bit of pent up spending demand where maybe you didn't spend in the spring and summer because of so much uncertainty. You didn't know if you were going to have a job locked in. And now with the holidays, remember, we're entering what is traditionally always a high spending season. And then you add to that this additional layer of whether that's pent up demand or nostalgia that some people are feeling, or worry about, oh gosh, if I'm going to be home and stuck at home for the entire month of December because COVID levels are ramping up again, I want to equip myself with those board games.
That was totally me.
Yeah. We bought a freezer. I mean, that's partly because we're now suburbanites, but we bought an additional freezer because I don't want to go out and grocery shop as much as if I can avoid that. Right. So I want to stock up on stuff. And
I feel like for a couple money geeks, there's like a frozen assets joke there somewhere, but I'm not getting it. Like there's some joke. It's like right here and I'm not quite there.
Yeah. I bought the freezer to freeze my credit cards. I don't know. The irony.
Did you ever do that?
No.
Oh, I was horrible with money back in the day. And that was my first trick. My first trick was freezing my credit card. And I have to tell you, I felt because I totally did this. I had the hairdryer out on the kitchen counter and I was trying to get in this block of ice because I wanted to, and I had to break the habit. I had to break the chain.
Well, you can't do that anymore because I haven't actually used a plastic piece of credit card. I always use my phone to pay, or everything is online. So, I have all my credit card numbers memorized at this point. Yes. Even the 3-digit access code. Like, it's bad.
Wow. You are a ninja.
I'm a credit card ninja. So today that wouldn't really work because you still have so many access points to using your credit card.
I guess that's a great thing about being an old guy was I went through my problems back in the day when you didn't have any of those things. But I will tell you this, getting back to this piece is that I did feel some guilt after I bought those board games. I felt like, really, I'm out here just wasting money on these things that I really don't need. And there's 11 million people that don't even have a job. And I feel like to some degree, and people listening can't hear this, but I'm doing that money thing with my hands where you're just taking money.
Not to sound like a capitalist, but you're supporting the economy, and if you believe in a trickle down impact, you're helping. And so what the article pointed out was, like, if you are going to spend, support the small business, because that person running that business is independent. They've got staff. There's, you can almost see and feel the impact a lot more than like shopping at the big box stores. And I like that. I like that approach. My friend and I were talking about how we could turn Black Friday into an actual Black Friday where you support POC businesses, run businesses, and actually like put your money towards the minority owned businesses, because imagine that could really make a difference.
Absolutely. Shine a spotlight on those businesses. That's fantastic. In just a moment, Farnoosh and I are going to have our takeaways from today's discussion. But first, I want to say a big thanks to everybody who's used our link when they've went to check out Tiller Money, when they've gone, when they be going to. The syntax is eluding me today, but I use Tiller Money because it's spreadsheet based. And even though I am a money geek, I'm not a spreadsheet guy. But I'll tell you the thing I like about Tiller is that I've used quite a few financial apps. I really like fintech. In fact, Farnoosh and I are going to have a discussion about fintech tomorrow, and sometimes fintech blowing up. But I've used I've used a few different apps, and they always have downsides, things that I don't like that I got to kind of work around. Well, with Tiller, I just hit delete because it's all a template that somebody else created. I delete the parts that I don't like. I can add in more. By the way, I never do because I want it fast. I want it quick. I want just basic data. But if you're a true money nerd, way over my head, and you want all kinds of data, you can also do that with Tiller Money. You'll get a free 30-day trial to check it out. And also every day, automatically all of your financial transactions from everywhere very safely and securely go into your spreadsheet, something that you can't do if you just go build your own spreadsheet. So check it out, tillerhq.com/MWF. That's tillerhq.com/MWF. What's your big takeaway here about financial guilt today, Farnoosh?
Well, I think that like any emotion that we feel around money, and we have a lot of feels when it comes to money, it's important to recognize it and not brush it aside. I think that too often we tell people like, ignore your feelings, be rational. But I think in this case, this can be a real interesting exploration, self-exploration. Like if you are feeling guilty, why is that? And what can you do to make this a better ending? Like if you are feeling guilt, you're not alone. There's an article in the Wall Street Journal about it. This is a trend. But you shouldn't downplay your success. How can you leverage your success to help others? Like how can you make yourself not feel guilty, right? I think that's always the opportunity with our emotions. If you're feeling scared, how can you not feel scared? Like use that as a prompt to go then do the thing that's going to make you feel better.
I love that idea. I'm right now reading Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art. I'm way late to this book. I know a lot of people have, especially in the creative community, have read that. Have you read that book?
No.
No, it's like this huge thing, and he talks about resistance and about, but one thing a point that he just made that you pointed out was about being rational. We expect that we're rational. We hear about efficient markets and people being rational. He says, you know what? If people were actually rational, we wouldn't do half the stuff we do. We'd all have written best-selling novels already. We would have done all those huge things that we have going on in our head that we'd never gotten to. We're not rational at all, and I think understanding that we're not rational and getting between our ears and to your point, saying that it's okay to feel the feeling, I think is a good thing. Sometimes I think, Farnoosh, and not to belabor this point too much, but for some people out there, the way that this piece read, some people feeling tremendous guilt, maybe it even means going to get some help, just going to talk to somebody.
Absolutely. I think that depending on the level of guilt that you're feeling, maybe there's more to unpack and you would benefit from working with a professional. We know that in the financial advice space, there's people who also have therapy licenses. So you get kind of both types of support in one person. I know, for example, Brad Klontz is a well-known financial therapist. Amanda Clayman is another well-known financial therapist. It's a very fast-growing field for this reason, because we're emotional humans, and then add money to the equation, and it's like a lot of feelings.
You can go back, by the way, to last season's episode. Brad Klontz joined us last season. Such a funny guy, by the way. I mean,
so cool. I like Brad a lot.
He's so great. Hey, speaking of great, I know.
He's on TikTok.
Any behavioral economist who does TikTok.
What do you think about TikTok?
I don't.
As a financial.
I just don't. I haven't.
Don't think about it either.
I've got 15. I'm trying to keep up with I can't even create Instagram stuff. I'm trying to keep up with Farnoosh's Instagram. Just reading Farnoosh's Instagram keeps me.
Well, we all keep each other keeping up, because I try to keep up with everything you're doing. So it's good. Let's just keep each other accountable on the platforms that we're currently on and not add more to the mix, because that would kill me.
I don't need 5 more platforms. I don't know how I do it. Hey, speaking of great, I heard that you have this phenomenal podcast. I had no idea. There's this great, apparently it's called So Money. It's like mentioned everywhere as a top podcast. How did I miss it?
I don't know. Maybe you've been spending too much time with your mom. It's great. Going great. Thank you. We're on, I think I just recorded episode like 1120. Yes. 1,120, but also I should say it's been 6 years. So, time helps, but it's
you were
great.
5 days a week for a while.
7 and
you
then
were
5
7 days.
And now 3. My husband's like, maybe you should go down to 2. I'm like, no, that's really slacking off. I can't. And also I really enjoy all that free time? I know, right?
You're only a mother of what? 2 kids.
2 kids.
You're juggling all this crazy stuff. I see you everywhere. I mean, what would you do with the free time of only doing a podcast 2 days a week?
I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. When this pandemic's over and we are back to resuming normalcy, where the kids can actually go to school and we can, get on a train to work or whatever. I don't know what I'm going to do with my time then, because, things have not really slowed down on the work front amidst all of this. I'm very fortunate, although there were like some quiet months there in the middle, but things seem to be picking back up. And it's hard, I will say. I was trying to have a conversation with my husband at dinner the other night, and as usual, one of the kids interrupts, and I look over to my son and I'm like, can I please talk to your dad? I haven't talked to him in a year. Because it was kind of true. And we're not really talking about anything important, but I just kind of want to talk to another adult.
You're like, hello, I'm Farnoosh. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Yes. We got married 8 years ago. Do you remember that?
I know you looked familiar. I knew you looked familiar. Yes.
I heard some noise up there. I didn't know who was up there.
You know what I do with all that time on the train that you're going to have, Farnoosh? I'd listen to so many podcasts.
Thank you.
And you know what's cool is it's available everywhere. It's available where fine podcasts are.
I just interviewed Robert Herjavec from the Shark Tank.
Wow,
you should have him on your show. Yeah, he's doing a bit of promotion around he's working with a corporate gifting company, but he also stayed to talk about so many other things, including some of the business opportunities he sees in the market right now. I also asked him, like, why are you so nice? You're the most consistently nice shark on Shark Tank.
But that's
where does that come from?
But wait a minute, though. I want to ask you something, because you and I get this rare opportunity where we get to see people behind the scenes. And I will tell you, because it isn't nice to name names, but there are people that come across as the flippant, and some of these people I'm talking about, Farnoosh, come across as the nicest people, and behind the scenes they're not at all. And there's other people who come across kind of as cold, and then the camera turns off, and for whatever reason they turn it on and they're phenomenal, right?
Yeah. The camera does weird things to people.
Yeah, is he really though? Is he really, before you turn on the microphone, was he really still that nice guy that we all think?
Yes. And in fact, this particular episode, I just started I hit record before I officially was recording, before I was like, hi, Robert, welcome to the show. And he was so nice to me. He had some technical issues, ironically, because he runs a tech conglomerate, but he had some tech issues getting on the podcast. He was super gracious about it. He addressed me by my first name, which, they're little things that go a long way. And he asked me questions. And it's just, I don't think you can fake that stuff.
No.
And he was super humble, and I could hear kids in the background. Like, he's just like us.
But did he have buzzsaws going in the background? Because that's what the cool people have.
I think he had a toddler in the background, which I don't know what's worse.
Yeah.
I mean, toddlers are cute and everything, and we like toddlers, but
I will take the buzzsaw, Farnoosh, because that guy's going away in about 2 hours.
Yeah, so, the toddler's not.
No, there we go. Hey, Farnoosh and I are back tomorrow with another episode of Money with Friends. We're talking about some bad news from a financial app that a lot of people have trusted. What do you do with your money? We'll let you know tomorrow on Money with Friends. 23 minutes. Bam.
Cool. All
right, guys. God, that was fun.
That's good. That's good.
The a guy that was the same was we had Guy Raz on a couple weeks ago, and he wanted to spend 30 minutes interviewing me ahead of time. And it's so flippin' amazing when How I Built This guy is like, so Joe, tell me about how you built that brand. I try to do my Guy Raz.
He really does. He's definitely on the whole time.
He totally was. He's like, wow. So it's your mom's basement. Tell it, how does that work?
That's so cool. You should be like, can you now take this interview and put it on your podcast?
I got a great idea, Guy, about what we should do with that. That would be fantastic. But he was great. But also, he's incredibly professional, and you've seen this before too. You're having this nice chat, and when it's time to hit record, because all of a sudden he just stopped then. So there's 20 minutes. I'm like, wow, when are we going to start the interview? And then all of a sudden he just stops, and I'm like, oh, okay, Guy, I'm hitting record and we're going to go now. So there's almost like when people are learning the build rapport thing, like when I was a brand new financial planner, you build rapport at the beginning, and it's all BS, right? Where you're having this talk about nothing and you don't even know the people. And then all of a sudden, bam, we're in the financial planning meeting.
You should put that in the in the like after show, like listen to my, preamble with Guy. That's what I did, except I just kept it in the beginning with Robert. I was like, you're going to hear some preamble. Like we don't really, it's just, just listen. It's really good. I
Chris
promise.
Hardwick in the Nerdist podcast, whatever they call that podcast now, he does that. And often, as you hear on that podcast, they'll be 5 minutes in and the guest will go, when are we going to start recording? He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I was recording from the time you walked in the door.
Yeah. I've been on shows where they do that. And I'm just like, is this even useful? But I guess it does suck you in a little bit as a listener. You're like, what? Cause you don't know where it's going to go. I might start doing that.
Yeah.
If it's good, only if it's good.
It gives people a comfort level. And then you're like, wow, I just got the real, Harrison Ford or whoever the hell he's having on.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We ready to do another one? Let me pull this up. This is horrible news, guys. This next thing. Two things here. So much technology. There we go. All right. Let's make an episode. This is going to be for Friday, November 13th. What's on tap for today? Financial app Beam in the news, and unfortunately not for good reasons. We're going to talk fintech, when to trust a company, and more with financial expert and host of the So Money podcast, Farnoosh Torabi, on today's Money with Friends. Welcome to the Money with Friends podcast, coming to you live from my mom's half-finished basement in Texarkana, Texas, where we make the Stacky Benjamins podcast. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy.
And I'm Farnoosh Torabi, host of the So Money podcast from Jersey.
This is the podcast where we cover recent stories ripped from the financial press. Today, we've got one from CNBC.com. Not only do we read them like some podcasts, but we dive into how they affect your wallet and what you can do to invest, save, and pay down debt more effectively. And if that's not enough, we'll also share a big idea at the end of today's show you can take with you to be better with your money the rest of your day, and all in usually less than 20 minutes. Today's show is brought to you by Tiller Money. You keep your financial life on course and easily track your money over time. Always know what's safe to spend and confidently plan for the future with spreadsheets automated by Tiller Money. You'll get a free 30-day trial if you use our link, Tiller Money, or tillerhq.com/MWF. That's tillerhq.com/MWF. I almost messed up the read. I've got to send people the right place, Farnoosh. That's like podcasting no right there. If the sponsor ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
I'm sure they'll understand. I'm sure you sent them enough customers by now, right?
You always hope so, because they're a cool company.
But I also know rich.
The podcasters I saw. Do you know Jordan Harbinger? Jordan also. Farnoosh is my favorite person to follow on Instagram. Jordan also, who has a podcast, very fun to follow on Instagram. And he's like, you always know a podcaster because they're like, yeah, so we had this horrible election and I was watching the election and drinking coffee from Starbucks. You get 10% off Starbucks when you go to a link at stackybenjamins.com/. Like, our segue into the sponsor spot is always.
Everything is an infomercial. Yeah.
Totally.
An advertorial.
This is a fintech company. We've had a lot of fintech success stories. I want to talk fintech success, fintech failures. There's a company called Beam that's in the news today. We'll see what it's all about after we see which one of our friends helps us kick off today's discussion. All right, today's piece comes to us from CNBC.com. This is written by Scott Cohen and Don Guile. Despite promises, Beam depositors still can't get access to their money. Now the lawsuits have begun. Former vendors for a company called Beam Financial, who say they're being unfairly blamed for customers being locked out of their accounts, have taken the company to court. What Beam was a company that offered above market interest rates on FDIC insured savings. But for months, some customers say they've been unable to access their money. CNBC has learned that Beam owes $182,000 in taxes to Delaware, where it's incorporated, and its corporate status has been revoked in Delaware and California, even though the company says that it is, quote, operational. Here's two frustrating things about this company, Farnoosh, is that on Stacking Benjamins, we do a Friday FinTech show where I warn people, and I want to talk about this for a second. We warn people that we're not endorsing these companies. They're ideas that I heard. I also like the fact that some of these companies are attacking things that the big banks don't go near. But also, I also know that because I have a platform, I wish I had a platform like So Money, but I don't. on Stacking Benjamins, I know I have a platform where quite a few people listen to us, and there is an implied endorsement there, right? Even though we say we're not endorsing them, you heard about them on our show, you go, oh, that sounds interesting. We had the founder from Beam on about 18 months ago. And he was talking about how, because they don't have any brick and mortar, they can take this savings that they get and they can pass it on to other individuals. They basically take your money and they shop which ones are paying the highest, and they move your money using fintech technology to move your money from FDIC to FDIC. So even though it's under Beam, it really is moving around in the background, all FDIC insured, guaranteed. Sound like a great idea. And now people can't get their money out. I guess my first question to you is, when do you trust these fintech companies? Because you hear these ideas and they sound so awesome.
Yeah, this is really frightening. I think, it's 2020, almost 2021. Fintech is not a new concept. It is absolutely the most funded startup category, at least in the last couple of years. A lot of money is getting poured into this space. So I have interviewed a number of fintech founders myself. For them, the most important thing, the good ones, the good CEOs, I'd say, the priority is security, making sure that they're building a platform that is just 100% bulletproof. Cybersecurity is a real threat to these companies, especially when you don't have, say, the dollars behind your business that, say, a Chase or a Bank of America or a Capital One, all these bigger banks have. They don't have robust departments dedicated to fintech. But so when you're launching one of these apps, when you're raising money, that's really, I think, should at least be the priority, because otherwise, why would anyone leave their bank or leave? It takes a lot for someone. And I just did a story on sort of like, we go on autopilot a lot of times with our financial decisions, which has its merits, but it can also, if you're not happy at your bank, you're more like you'll stay. Consumer Reports did a study and said only 1 in 5 will actually make a switch to something new or different. So it takes a lot for people to make the migration, I think, over to sometimes these lesser known, lesser established financial institutions, fintech companies. And so it's really disappointing that they make that switch. Whoever's on the Beam took money from another bank and brought it over to Beam, and that took time. That took like a little bit of stress too, because, you're putting a lot of trust in an institution that doesn't have a huge track record. But, I'm not familiar with Beam. I don't know what kind of marketing they had. I don't know what kind of endorsers they had. I'm sure it looked legit. It was FDIC insured after all.
Well, and this is the thing is that, and I wanted to get to that because it's something that you and I know. And I remember I was cautioning people about during the big financial downturn, 2007, 2008, when you saw some of these non-FDIC insured accounts that a lot of people were using break the dollar, meaning if you had a money market account that didn't have FDIC insurance, lost money in something that you thought was a guaranteed return. Wasn't the case if you didn't have FDIC. But what I also cautioned people about at that time is that even though you have FDIC insurance, so assuming that Beam was not lying about FDIC, which we don't know, but if they weren't lying about FDIC, these people will get their money back. Their money is insured. However, and I want to this is the thing I want to be clear about in 2007, 2008, just because you have FDIC insurance does not mean you can get your money today. It doesn't mean that your money is liquid right now. It means that at some point you will be made whole. But I don't know, Farnoosh, that there's a definitive timeline on that money. I mean, it's got to go through this whole legal process for you to actually get paid out by FDIC insurance. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the worst nightmare, right? Especially in a recession, in a pandemic, you need cash. And if you've been good to have, if you have an account somewhere with money in it, you've done the good work of saving, and now this happens, I would be livid. I'm sure their PR team is having they're having their nightmare right now, but I think there needs to be more pressure from the media, frankly.
No, I totally agree. I'm not hearing about this story.
What else? Yeah, like this needs to be on because this also needs to be, we need to make a lesson out of this for other apps and startups, even the traditional companies. Like, you can't freeze people's bank accounts over no reason.
We talked about yesterday 11 million people out of a job during the pandemic. If you're one of those 11 million people, to your point, and you've got money here, that's absolutely horrible situation, which means, I mean, from a financial planning standpoint, at the very least, we talk a lot in financial planning about tiering your reserves, right? Keep some money in a spot where, hey, it's not about the interest rate. And I know a lot of people were interested in Beam because they paid a very high rate for a savings account. Instead of worrying about the interest rate, worry about liquidity first. And then with some money that you're not going to need for maybe 3, 4, 6 months, then put some of that money in a place like a Beam, where hopefully 3 months from now, this all gets sorted out. I want to talk about the positive side of this, which is you've got, 99% of the founders we've interviewed have been great. And they have these cool, innovative products. Where in your life, Farnoosh, are you using fintech to get ahead?
Well, I use an app that helps me to sort of identify my net worth in one frame. I get to see all my big accounts, what's coming in, what's going out, all on one screen. I check it like I check the weather. I love it. It's great because it helps me see when things get reconciled. Like when the market did or when the news about Pfizer's COVID results, what is it called when you take not the virus, the
vaccine?
The vaccine. Thank you. 90% effective clinical. So the market went crazy. And, it's exciting to see your net worth in theory, like, go up. So I feel like that for me, is helpful just to be able to continue having that relationship with my money. I always tell people it's important to check in. Now, I have a low threshold for, the pain that I feel when I look at money. Like, I love looking at money all day long, even if it's going in the negative direction. I want to analyze it. I want to look at it and I want to think about it. Some people don't want to have anything to do with looking at money, but you got to check in at least once a month, once a week, every day, like me. And that app, I think, keeps me really in touch. And
do you mind calling out the name of it? Because I know Personal Capital does that. Yeah, Personal Capital does that.
It's Personal Capital. I have a Robinhood account. Now, I caveat that with I'm not a huge fan of Robinhood.
People know how I feel about Robinhood. You can see in the comments.
Yeah.
Because I think Robinhood is predatory. It's just the number of times that Robinhood has screwed over their customers is unbelievable. While they point the finger at—
I have an article coming about it. Yeah, I'm going to be writing about it because even someone I consider myself pretty well versed in stocks. I mean, I know like the lingo. I know they use like this terminology in the app that is very misleading. For example, when I went to buy I wanted to buy some shares of Party City. This is really funny because over the summer I was in a Party City store. You've ever been there? They're so dumpy, but they're but people like it's mobbed, especially during certain seasons and holidays. It's just like a mob scene. And I was there right around like graduation, Father's Day, all the things. And it was like I was 60th in line just to buy a few trinkets. And I was like, I'm buying, what is this stock? Like, where is it even trading at? It's like $1.25. So I bought a couple hundred shares just to sort of for my own entertainment. Sure. I don't buy stocks. This was the first stock purchase I had probably ever made in my life. I only buy, funds and ETFs. And my brother did it too. He's really, so together as like brother or sister, we kind of like, we like checks each other every day, like, whoa, we're going to retire on Party City or we're not going to retire on Party City. But I used the Robinhood app because it was just the easiest way I thought to get to buying the shares. And when you buy the shares, they don't use all your money. I gave them $500. They used $400. And then they left a $100 balance in what's called my spending power. What the heck is spending power? Just call it your cash because now I think it's like free money. It feels like free money. And I'm like, oh, I can use this to buy more.
Go buy something else.
And I didn't realize I don't actually own $500 worth of Party City. And so the spread looked bigger to me, because really I just spent 400, not 500. So at the stock, if my equity now is, I don't know. So it was just confusing. And I ended up overspending a little bit on what I really wanted, how much I wanted to buy. And I'm like, what's going on with this app, And so so that is not helping me get ahead, but it is helping me kind of keep in touch with my brother. We're bonding over this silly cool. Stock purchase. Yeah.
Some of my favorite apps are some of the weird ones. I really like this little company in Chicago that has an app called Tip Yourself. And you know how we talked yesterday about over tipping people at restaurants because we feel bad and we know how much help they need and they don't get the usual tips. But we never tip ourselves when we do something good. So if you go out on a 2-mile walk or a 5-mile run, or you do clean up the dishes right after dinner, you promise yourself, I'm going to tip myself $2 in this jar. And it's like my vacation fund. So I now just tip it is the dumbest app. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's stupid. I'm just moving money from my savings account to a different savings account. But then once every 4 or 5 months, I look over there and I've got a few $100 saved that I spend on a nicer hotel for a vacation,
Very cool. Yeah.
Tipping myself using fintech.
If you're going to spend time on your phone, why not spend a little bit of that time putting away a little bit of money? Even though you have it somewhere else, just compartmentalizing it sometimes, it springs on ideas like, oh, maybe you wouldn't have thought about finding a deal on your next lodging or hotel, because it puts your head in the right place.
Right. Yep.
Keeps you focused on the right things.
I love the roundups at your bank that, where it turns if I've got a $3.50 transaction, it'll round it up to $5 and the rest of it goes in my savings. The roundups are a cool way to save a little extra money. Those are neat.
That's like what Acorns does, right? They round up your purchases and they put them in investments. I like Digit. I don't know if it's still around. I hope it is.
It is around. Great. Yes.
It's, I was at their pitch. I was when they were like just starting out. They were pitching to JP Morgan Chase to be a part of their incubator, and I was hosting the event, and there were judges, and I remember thinking like, this app's gonna fly, and it did.
He's a cool founder too.
Yeah, he's super. Such a like, almost like, why didn't I think of that? And his whole foundation for the business at the beginning was like, well, there was this white paper that I found that said that people are really bad at saving. And I'm like, I've known this forever, but I haven't really done anything interesting with it like where you're building like this cool app around it. Like, of course, no one's good at saving. Who would think to actually turn that into a financial success story, a business idea?
It's so neat. And there are so many ways to get ahead. In just a second, Farnoosh and I will have our takeaways from today's discussion about fintech. Bad when it comes to Beam, maybe kind of bad when it comes to Robinhood, good in a lot of ways with a lot of companies. But first, want to say a big thanks to everybody who's used our link when they've gone to Tiller Money. Tiller is what I use to manage my money. And the reason I like it is because it's built on the unmatched flexibility of spreadsheets. What Tiller Money does is it automates Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, whichever one you're comfortable with, so you can keep a clear view of your finances with everything in one place. You save time by using Tiller Money because it aggregates everything, and you get more flexibility because of the fact that you can make it do more of what you want, less of what you don't want. To check it out, head to tillerhq.com/MWF. That's tillerhq.com/MWF. There's a good use of fintech, Farnoosh, just using it to help you budget. And there's several good budget apps. I use Tiller. I know people that like YNAB. How many people swear by YNAB?
So many people.
Some really good budgeting. So people use Mint, Clarity Money, lots of good ways to track your expenses. What's our takeaway here when it comes to you're pointing?
Yeah, Cody wants to know how my Party City Gamble's working out. I love it. It was doing really well over the summer. I thought I was like up 30%. And then then I was underwater like in October a little bit, but now it's so volatile. When you buy these cheapo stocks, expect a really volatile run, up, 10% one day, down 8% another day, up 18%. So I'm in the black right now. I'm, and I wanted to cash out because I thought, I could use this for holiday spending, but then I don't want to pay the huge capital gains tax. It's only been I only had the stock for a few months. So I got to hold on to it for like a year or two before I pay the huge tax penalty. Yeah. Do you know
Do you know what I would do? Here's what I would do to keep your stock up, Farnoosh. Just a little recommendation. I just call them a few times and tell them, this is the owner. Can I talk to the CEO? And give them like tips on how to run the company better.
Oh my God, better lighting, the online experience is terrible. They just need to get acquired. I just think that's, in their future. And then pretty soon this will just, this is my way of buying Amazon stock because I think Amazon is going to buy them. I can't afford Amazon. So I'm buying Party City. It'll eventually become Amazon stock.
You're buying in cheap. That's what you're doing. Buy low, sell high.
There's got to be a strategy there.
Hashtag science, America. Hashtag science. Absolutely. What's our takeaway from today's discussion about fintech?
Yeah, I hope this is an outlier as far as I can tell in a lot of the great fintech companies out there. I wouldn't use this as sort of the poster child for fintech, the Beam story, but I do think it does remind us that when a deal sounds too good to be true, I'm sorry, 7%, you can't guarantee a savings rate, right? That fluctuates. It's not locked in. You're not buying CDs. And so that's a red flag. And I think that if you are going to participate and play with some of these newer unconfirmed apps, you don't want to put serious money in it. Maybe it's just the hotel night stay money in it, or it's the Christmas shopping money in it. You don't put your thousands and thousands of dollars. Yes, your Party City buy. You're not buying. You're not putting too much at stake.
I totally agree. And I think the only add-on takeaway that I have is using fintech is fantastic for those ancillary things we talked about, keeping a budget, right? What could go wrong if your budget software doesn't work tomorrow? You'll probably find another way to get that done. But when you're locking up your money with a critical core task, I think differentiating between what's critical core things that I need right now versus those things like tipping yourself or rounding up or planning your budget, those things I think are way better for fintech. But also I think there is a lesson here too, which is a lot of people still have yet to embrace fintech, and just some of the ideas you and I talked about, Farnoosh. I mean, to some degree, go use technology to get ahead.
Yeah,
use it.
I agree.
All day on your phone already.
I mean, how many hours you spend on your phone? All these technologies are on the phone. So rather than doom scrolling on Instagram, doom scroll your net worth on personal capital,
I don't want to take away from the time though that I follow Farnoosh Torabi on Instagram. That's what I don't want to take away from. So I'm done with apps. We talked yesterday about the So Money podcast. That's awesome. You have a fantastic book called When She Makes More. When's the next book coming? That's what America wants to know.
America wants to know. Well, I have an idea and I'm excited to get cracking on it. I haven't pitched it, but I will tell you it's kind of good the longer you wait, because the more you experience life, the more material you gather for your next book or podcast or whatever. But it is going to have something to do with emotions and money, and I think fear, perhaps focusing in on that, because so many of us have experienced it. I grew up a very scared little girl because my mom, as immigrants, their MO was like, let's scare the out of this little girl so she won't get into trouble. She won't go with strangers anywhere. She won't, and so I call the book A Healthy State of Panic. And I think if anyone ever feels panic, how can you kind of leverage that to make healthy decisions? How can you turn that on its head and actually live a healthy life? So it's something like along the lines of living your best financial life, even though all you want to do is stay under your bed and, all the things that are wrong in the world are scaring you. Also global warming. Like, it's just going to be a run-on subtitle where it's just going to be like all the list of things that are like just killing us,
all the dark
global
stuff under
warming,
your bed,
civil war, all the dark things. Yeah.
Well, that's such a great idea.
It's going to be fun. I want it to be a fun/funny book. I'll definitely interview you for it because I just want to make it like, who wants to read a book about fear and money? But maybe you'll read this because it's going to make you laugh at every page, you know?
But I think addressing it head on and realize, like, what's the worst thing? What's the worst we can do? Well, if we fail, right? And how much have we learned from failure? Like, we've learned so much. So Money Podcast available wherever fine your podcasts are distributed. Only the finer podcasts, wherever you're listening to today's show. She's Farnoosh. She'll be back in a month. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you guys next time back here at Money with Friends. Bye-bye. Oh my God, was that fun, guys?
That was so much fun. You like the idea? I'm going to send you the, yeah, let me read you the exact subtitle I came up with. I'm just having like a lot of fun with it. Who knows if this will actually get anywhere, but it's a healthy state of panic. Living your best financial life, despite the fact that you just want to hide under the covers because life is hard, scary, and you just can't anymore. Also global warming.
And we're all going to die. We're all
going to die. Yeah. So just spend all your money. Yeah.
It's so funny. You know, the by the way, Sarah says that speaks to her. So you've sold a copy. Yes.
Boom. All right. I feel like just be honest, right? Like there's no more, I'm at this point in my life. I'm like, I just say it and I give it like it is. I'm like, yeah, that sounds terrible. Don't do that. Or
you can always tell, Cheryl works with kids in medicine, and she always talks about, it's the same thing. I think maturity for adults is the same thing as it is for when it comes to kids. Like, she can always tell when somebody comes into her office and it's a parent for the first time versus a parent for the third time. The parent for the first time wants to put bumpers on everything so the kid never gets hurt. And the parent for the third time is like, no, let them go ahead and stick their finger there. They'll learn.
Right. We know, like, it's not a 911 emergency.
Right. It's going to be fine.
It's just a lot of Band-Aids. It's okay.
Yes, they will learn. Although my son hung out with a kid who is the youngest of 5. Came home one day, Farnoosh, and said, "Mom, what's French kissing?"
Ooh.
And this is at like 6 years old. And you know what Cheryl said? Cheryl said, "You've been hanging out with Jack Roble, haven't you?" And Nick goes, "Yeah, how did you know?" Like, she just called it. We knew it was Jack. And by the way, Jack, we love you. You're fantastic. But he's the youngest of 5 kids, so he knew stuff a little earlier than other kids did.
Yeah.
You've got that to look forward to still.
Oh, great. Speaking of, I got to go do math.
Yeah.
With the 6-year-old.
We are running over. See you guys later.